The small town of Pine Hollow had always been peaceful, a sleepy place where people left their cars unlocked and children played freely in the fields. But when the Wilson family moved into the abandoned farmhouse on the outskirts of town, that peace began to unravel. The farmhouse had been empty for nearly 30 years, ever since its last owner, an old woman named Margaret, mysteriously vanished one winter night, leaving dinner half-eaten on the table and her coat still hanging by the door. Rumors spread that she had been taken by something not of this world, and the locals whispered about shadows in her windows, cold drafts that passed even on hot summer days, and strange shapes seen wandering her land at dusk. The Wilsons, however, didn't believe in ghost stories. Daniel Wilson, a pragmatic man in his 40s, saw only a cheap property with potential. His wife Claire fell in love with the wide porch and creaking charm of the house, and their son Ethan, a curious 12-year-old, thought the woods behind the farmhouse were the perfect place for adventure. On their first night, as they unpacked boxes in the dusty living room, Ethan found a small wooden box tucked inside the fireplace. He opened it eagerly, revealing yellowed papers and a rusted key. Among the papers was a diary belonging to Margaret, its faded ink barely legible. He read aloud one line that made his parents laugh nervously. "The thief in the walls has returned. It takes at night. It takes more than objects. It takes pieces of us." Claire told him it was just an old woman's ramblings, but Ethan kept the diary under his pillow, fascinated. That very night, things began to happen. They were woken at 3 a.m. by the sound of footsteps moving across the attic. Heavy, deliberate steps, dragging slowly from one corner to another. Daniel grabbed a flashlight and stormed upstairs, but the attic was empty. The dust on the floor was untouched. Still, the sound continued every night, always at the same time. Then, small items began disappearing. Claire's earrings vanished from the nightstand. Ethan's baseball glove disappeared from the porch. Daniel lost his wallet, though he was sure he left it on the kitchen counter. Each time, they searched the entire house, only to find nothing. At first, they blamed each other, but soon it became clear something was wrong. A week later, Ethan woke screaming. His parents ran into his room and found him trembling, pointing at the corner. "It was here," he whispered, eyes wide. "The thing in the walls, it was watching me." Claire hugged him, assuring him it was a nightmare, but when Daniel turned on the lamp, they saw deep scratches carved into the plaster, long and jagged, as if something with claws had dragged across it during the night. Daniel tried to patch them up the next morning, but when he returned hours later, the scratches were back, deeper than before. The missing items grew larger. A chair vanished from the kitchen, then the rug from the hallway, then an entire dresser from their bedroom. It was as if the house itself was being hollowed out piece by piece. But worst of all was the night Claire woke to find Ethan's bed empty. She screamed for Daniel, and they searched the house frantically. Finally, they heard faint crying coming from inside the walls. Panicked, Daniel smashed open a section of drywall in Ethan's room, and there he was, Ethan, curled in a narrow space, shivering, his eyes wide with terror. "It pulled me in," he sobbed. "The thief in the walls." They decided to leave the farmhouse the next morning, but the house had other plans. When Daniel tried to start the car, the keys were gone. Claire reached for her phone, but it too had vanished. Even the boxes they had packed the night before were missing. It was as if the house had stolen every way of escape. That night, Daniel sat at the kitchen table, clutching the old diary, reading desperately for answers. The last entry chilled him to the bone. "It does not want things, it wants us. The more it takes, the stronger it becomes. Soon it will not need to hide in the walls. Soon it will walk free." As midnight approached, the farmhouse groaned as though alive. The air grew icy cold, their breath visible in the dark. Then, from the hallway, a figure emerged, not quite human, but not fully shadow either. Its body seemed stitched together from all the stolen things. Pieces of wood, scraps of fabric, bits of metal fused into a grotesque form. Its hollow face turned toward them, and in a voice that echoed with countless whispers, it said, "You are mine now." The family huddled together, praying, screaming, desperate to fight, but the figure stretched its long arms, and one by one, the lights went out. When the townspeople of Pine Hollow finally checked on the farmhouse weeks later, they found it abandoned once again. But the porch chairs were missing, the curtains gone, and even the family car had vanished from the driveway. Inside, the walls bore new scratches, fresh and deep, and in Ethan's room, tucked beneath the mattress, they found Margaret's diary, with one final entry written in a child's shaky hand. "We are inside the walls now." And so, the farmhouse waits, quiet, patient, always hungry.